then what does that mean? You just don't try anymore? You just say like, I wanted to be a successful business owner, but it just wasn't meant to be. And nothing is meant to be. It's what you do with it.
We're so afraid of that next thing not working and the disappointment of it. But it's so disempowering. Learned helplessness is well, there's nothing I can do about it anyway, so I guess it wasn't meant to be. And it's not useful, it's not empowering, it's not a good thing.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was number 1126 today for episode number 1127. How, and this is in quotation marks, it just wasn't meant to be is hurting you. We did an episode a while ago. I think it was 5 common phrases that are jeffing you, maybe. It was a while ago, probably.
Misbeliefs.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what we titled it, but
it was like a myth-busting belief episode. Yeah.
And we've done that before, too. That was the second time we did that. I remember we did that in the basement studio at your mom's house back in the day as well. So
way back.
We've been on to this. We've been on to this concept for a long time. So the goal of this episode really is to get you to understand, and you might already understand this, or maybe you want to believe this, but you do not yet. It's to get you to understand that anytime we are using sayings, we are using words that relieve us of any responsibility, it most likely is not doing us any favors. So you will hear people, and I hear this all the time, well, I had this program that I had up and running, but nobody signed up. It just wasn't meant to be. And that's the end of it. It's like, it wasn't meant to be. I shouldn't do it. When the reality is, there's a number of things that could have happened. Number one, you either didn't do the right thing to make sure people came to the program. Number two, you're very early in the journey. Number 3, you're not good at marketing. Number 4, your product isn't good yet. Number 5, you don't know enough yet. There's a million different reasons under that. So just imagine everything that you use on a daily basis. People had many opportunities to say, you know what, this cell phone thing, just not meant to be. This airplane thing, just not meant to be. This laptop thing, this camera thing, this light thing, this air conditioning thing, this heat thing, it's just not meant to be. When you're saying that, you are quite literally relieving yourself of any responsibility, thus relieving yourself of any opportunity to actually make it work out. And again, we've talked about this many, many times, and I think this is kind of our unique brand, where there are people that will tell you to work 16 hours a day and don't sleep. There are also other people that will tell you to only work when it feels right, when it feels aligned, when it feels easy. Ours is in the middle. And I think a lot of people want to think, well, it just wasn't meant to be. If it's meant to be, it'll be. If it's supposed to happen, it'll happen at the right time. I think you can speed up the process. I really, really do.
Yeah. And the reason we say this is not only do we see this in many of our clients and different listeners and community members, but in ourselves. I mean, when we were getting, I did a post recently where I talked about how we used to get 4 listens a day.
Yeah, we were crushing it
early on. And we could have easily said, well, I guess this podcast thing isn't meant to be. Mm-hmm. And if we had done that, you literally would not be listening to us right now. And there's a big difference between this isn't what I want and this isn't meant to be. So I want everyone to understand something. Like, if you go into some endeavor and it doesn't work the way you want it to, which, by the way, is every endeavor. Seriously, what's a good example of this? Think of Canva. Canva, if you've ever used it, one of the best companies, one of the fastest growing companies to ever exist. They call it a unicorn company, billion-dollar company. Started in 2013. Even Canva, last night during Emilia and I's relationship talks event, has like a lot of bugs. It was having issues. It wasn't letting me, I need to be a team member, and then it wouldn't let me access the PowerPoint, and the video got all messed up. And even Canva, which is a billion-dollar company that was founded in 2013 and has some of the best engineers in the world, computer scientists, is still buggy and not working well. Adobe, same deal. So my point is that if they are having problems,
Adobe was the worst.
Right, see? And that's the best in the world.
It's the best program in the world, and it literally would crash 3 times a week minimum. If you got through an entire thing and it didn't crash, it was like, hell yeah. But every other time it just crashed. It's brutal. I hated it.
Well, it wasn't meant to be.
It wasn't meant to be.
It wasn't meant to be. Now, again, we're being playful with this, but seriously, Adobe Premiere is what, if you've ever seen a famous movie, the Avengers movies, whatever, they use Adobe Premiere most likely to edit those films. One of my friends is a film director, and he uses Adobe Premiere. So it's still buggy. It still crashes. It's still not perfect. There's no such thing. Even the iPhone, best product ever created, arguably, it still has problems. We couldn't unread text messages until like
2 months
last
ago.
week or 2 weeks ago or whatever. And so my point is that what if Apple was like, you know what, this iPhone thing, wasn't really meant to be. What happens is, and we did an episode on this recently, this is what happens. You have an expectation that things are going to go either better or worse than they really do. And when the reality does not meet our expectation, we tell ourselves a new story instead of just being more accurate in our thinking. And you have to be very, very careful how you interpret that data. So Kevin does his first speech in front of 40 people. He thinks it's going to go horribly wrong. He ends up doing really well. The whole audience is laughing. It went really well, all things considered.
Yeah, I would say
And so he tells himself a new story. Luckily, he chose an empowering one. The empowering one is, I'm an awesome speaker. Go me, right? Then our second speech, he doesn't prep. He makes some kid come up on stage and do push-ups.
Several
push-ups because he didn't show up he showed up with a couple flashcards.
Several children and several push-ups.
You want to be a motivational speaker? Come up here and do this speech for me. And Kev showed up dressed to the nines, no notes. I think he had a couple flashcards, ready to rock. Didn't even know what he was going to talk about. You want to be a motivational speaker? Come do my speech. Because I'm unprepared and freaking out. But my point is, luckily after that, he didn't tell himself a story, I'm a bad speaker. So the story you tell yourself dictates everything. And if you're just saying, it wasn't meant to be, you might be doing that way too early. But if you decide, you know what, I don't really want to be a speaker, that's a whole nother conversation.
And again, I try to use good analogies and good examples for something like this, but it's very much, imagine that you are put into a room and your life goal is to escape that room. It's going to take you a long time before you say, well, maybe it just wasn't meant to be. No, you're going to say, I just haven't found the way out yet. I just haven't found the way out. There's got to be a way out. Nobody would put me in here with no way out. Like, there's got to be a way out. That's how I think of everything else. I know it's not as serious, and I know that's a very serious example. But if somebody... And I think this is the interesting thing. I think this is where it comes from. It comes from, and this isn't a bad thing, but when I was a kid, I'm sure I was told that. Like, if something didn't go wrong, didn't go my way, something went wrong, I didn't get a job I applied for, a girl didn't date me when I thought she should have, I'm sure somebody probably said, well, it's just not meant to be. Or if it was meant to be, it would happen. And I'm sure then you internalize it as like, yeah, that's good. I like that. I'm going to use that in this example. And the problem is that becomes your new story. And yeah, I've seen it time and time again with people. And yeah, we're joking about it, but I do get frustrated because then what does that mean? You just don't try anymore? You just say like, I wanted to be a successful business owner, but it just wasn't meant to be. And nothing is meant to be. It's what you do with it. Nothing is meant to be. It's not the way it works. It's not the way it works. And I've had those situations too where early in, I had a rough week at NLPS, Next Level Podcast Solutions. We had a couple launches. They didn't go as smoothly as I'd like them to go. That's on me. I'm very overwhelmed. I'm burning down. I can't keep up with everything. But I have not said at one point, maybe this podcast business is not meant to be. I just haven't figured out the right things yet. And I came to Alan and I said, hey, I need help with blank. And I talked to Ron and I said, hey, Ron's the director. I said, hey, what can we do better? Like, how can I support better? It wasn't, well, this isn't meant to be. It's harder than it's ever been. I have to figure out a different way. And I think this is my favorite analogy in the world. My favorite analogy. Many of us are more interested in getting out of the pool than learning how to swim. That really, really, really is my thought process for this. And I watched this video. So when Taryn's dad comes over, we always watch like weird stuff. We call it fringe sports. It's just like, because we always find something weird. Last night we watched wrestling, but like college wrestling. But he came over a couple months ago, and we watched this video about these skydivers were going skydiving. And reason number 1,120, Kevin will never go skydiving. And they were flying to the place where they were supposed to skydive, and the engine stopped working. So they all had to jump out of the plane long before they were ready to do it, and it was a whole thing. So the plane crashed. I think 3 out of the 4 people passed away. One of them landed in the middle of the ocean. In the middle of the ocean. Number 2 fear. And proceeded, I don't remember what it was, but I'm pretty sure he floated around for like 48 hours. And there were several times where he was like, I just got to find a way to grab onto something. I got to find a way to find a log. I got to find a way to swim towards shore. And he got to the point where he was like, honestly, I hope a shark eats me because I don't think I'm going to make it. I really don't know if I can do this anymore. And then he ended up like having that moment of, I got to do this. Like, I got to figure out a way. I got to figure out a way. I got to figure out a way. And he stayed floating, and I guess, evidently a log floated by him miraculously, and he grabbed onto it. Then he swam through a sea of jellyfish, and it was brutal. It was like the worst thing I can imagine, one of the worst things I can imagine enduring. But he didn't say, you know what, maybe this life wasn't meant to be. I'm just gonna go. And again, I mean, if I was treading water for 47 hours, who knows what I would do? I probably would have had a panic attack and sunk right to the bottom. But that's what I'm talking about. When you have that kind of experience, you don't say to yourself, maybe it just wasn't meant to be. You say, how do I stay here? How do I keep going? How do I push through this? So I know it's a light topic, but it means a lot to you if you're trading in responsibility, you're also trading in power. And that's just an important fundamental understanding to have.
Hey, I wanted to give my experience working with Kevin and the rest of the Next Level University team. It has been such a seamless relationship. He is so easy to work with, Kevin, and he gives you all the information you need, but doesn't overwhelm you. He's also meets you where you're at. So whatever you want to do, he'll make it work. And it's just, there's no stress, there's no drama. And everybody else that I've worked with has been patient with me because I am not technologically savvy. So they've been helpful and patient and just encouraging. And it's just been a fantastic experience. I highly, highly recommend working with them.
This is what came to me when Kev was talking. The escape room analogy. For anyone who's ever done an escape room, I've done, I think, 3. And the goal is to get out in a certain amount of time. You always want to hit the leaderboard or whatever, which I think is really cool. But imagine in the analogy that Kevin mentioned of like you're in a room and it's an escape room, and the goal is to get out of the room. You're not going to just randomly, now here's the if you believe there is actually a way. See, this is the problem. There are some things that there really isn't a way to do it. And I'll give you an example. If I wanted to be the best bodybuilder in the world, I don't actually believe that that's even possible for me. And there's a lot of reasons underneath that, okay? So no matter what, I'm more inclined to say it wasn't meant to be because I don't actually believe it's possible anyway. So here's my point. If you're in an escape room and you're certain, let's say you actually did believe that there was a way out, and you're in there for, let's say, 3 days and you still can't get out for some reason, but you really did believe there's a way. If you really do believe there is a way to get out of that room, you're going to keep looking. But if you don't think, imagine you're in a room that really doesn't have a door, that really you can't actually get out of, you're going to stop. It's called learned helplessness. There's like a psychological term for that. And if you've ever seen The Shawshank Redemption, it's kind of the opposite of learned helplessness. Have you seen it?
Of course I've seen it.
Okay.
Spoiler alert. You gotta throw a spoiler alert out there in case.
I mean, this is from like the
that's
90s,
a classic
man.
though.
It's a classic.
Shawshank is a classic, so you never know. The younger generation.
All right, true. Shawshank is arguably the best movie ever filmed.
Other than Titanic, of course.
But it's number 1 on IMDb, so it's kind of a big deal. But anyways, so that movie is built around this idea of learned helplessness. Many of the prisoners in Shawshank Prison have accepted their fate because they don't believe there's any alternative. They don't believe they'll ever get out. They don't believe they'll ever get parole. And even if they did, they're not sure they would know how to survive on the outside anymore. So, and I'm not going to actually do the spoiler. I don't want to tell. Well, yeah, I will. All right, spoiler alert. Turn this off if you've never seen Shawshank Redemption. Seriously. So he does escape the prison, and it took him, 2 years to carve through that wall behind the poster?
I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen it. It's too long for my liking.
Here's the Here's the difference between Andy Dufresne in that movie and everyone else. Andy Dufresne really did believe he could escape. That's the difference. It took 2.5 years or whatever of hard work, literally carving with a little tiny pickaxe behind a poster at night while no one was watching. And he did. He got free. He got out. And so that's the analogy here is he's not like, oh, it wasn't meant to be. I'm meant to be in prison even though I'm innocent. No, he knows he's innocent and he knows he can get out. He believed there's a way out. And so one of the reasons we don't believe there's a way out is because we're so afraid of pain and failure. We're so afraid of that next thing not working and the disappointment of it. But it's so disempowering. Learned helplessness is well, there's nothing I can do about it anyway, so I guess it wasn't meant to be. And it's not useful, it's not empowering, it's not a good thing. Very last thing I'll say, dollar in the jar. I was on the phone with a client literally yesterday, and we went through all of her empowering beliefs and all of her disempowering. That's the frame here. It's not like right and wrong. It's accurate or inaccurate. It's intelligent or unintelligent based on the context. It's empowering or disempowering. It wasn't meant to be is a disempowering belief disguised. It's disguised as empowering. When in reality, it just makes you feel better about messing up. Or not persevering. Or, instead of you saying, it wasn't meant to be, I'm not smart enough, you said, how do I get smarter? What books should I read? Right? See how empowering that is? So, that's it. That's all I've got.
Even I told this story, I think I told it on the show, or I don't know if I told it in the meetup, but the year after I made the most money at my old job, I applied for a desk job to make, I think it was like $45,000 a year. So I went from being on the road making $100,000 a year to saying, look, I cannot do this on the road junk anymore. I need to be home. I am homesick. Let me get this job in the office as a project manager making $45,000. I didn't get the job. I thought I was qualified, but I didn't get the job.
No spreadsheets.
No spreadsheets for the kid. Yeah, no spreadsheets. Neither the person who got the job was not a spreadsheet master either, and definitely had several drug addictions that probably wouldn't serve the company at a deeper level. But whatever, it is what it is. Now, I could say two things. I could say it wasn't meant to be, or honestly, maybe I wasn't as qualified as I thought. I think it was probably the second one.
Which
and
one's
honestly,
more empowering?
Which one? The really more empowering is I wasn't as qualified.
Why?
Because I can change that.
Exactly.
I can change that.
Growth mindset.
I'm in control of that. Mm-hmm. I'm in control of that. Now, again, best thing that ever happened, because if I got that job, who knows if I would have left and started the podcast. I might be typing away in spreadsheets right now. I am.
Well, you were still doing the
day.
podcast, right? We were doing the podcast when you applied for that job.
Were,
I remember.
Yeah, but I don't know if I ever would have gone
the pain might not have been great enough for you to quit.
Yeah, no, probably not. I would have been
And
home.
just because something worked out well doesn't mean it was meant to be.
Right.
You might have made it work out well.
Yeah.
I know I said this before.
Another dollar in the jar?
Another dollar in the jar. $2 for Next Level Hope Foundation.
We have to find a way. We have to find a way, right? This is a breakthrough in this moment. It's going to make us more entertaining. Okay. We have to find a way to have a dollar counter somewhere. And every time you do it, I can hit a button and it dings, and then it goes up one.
Do it.
I don't know how to do that.
Right now, we're $4 Next Level Hope Foundation ever since we did this, and all of them were me.
Of course.
What do you mean, of course, man?
They're costing us dollars.
Son?
Just
joking.
Well, not really. What you're doing, this is the empowering belief. You're giving dollars to a great cause.
Exactly. I now completely forget what I was about to say.
Perfect.
Yep. So I guess that wasn't the last thing I'm going to say. Or was it?
Well, we still got to put a dollar in the jar. Next Level Nation. I know this was kind of a goofy episode. We weren't super serious, but this thought, anytime you are giving up your responsibility, you are giving up your opportunity to get better or to grow through it or to learn from it. So just make sure you're really careful about the words that you're giving, the words that you're listening to. I'll say the words that you're saying, the words that you're listening to, and the words that you are giving to others. We have been talking often about Genius Zone. We did 2 episodes last week or 2 episodes this week, I don't know, talking about the Genius Zone. We have a live monthly virtual meetup November 3rd, how to find your unique Genius Zone. If you see somebody who has grown a lot over a very short period of time, odds are that they are spending the majority of their time in their Genius Zone because they're really, really doing what they're meant to be doing, what they're supposed to be doing, what they're best at. We are going to help you figure out what yours is and how to go all in on it. November 3rd, it's totally private. It's behind the scenes, totally free. You don't have to have your camera on. You don't have to participate at all. You can just watch. We want to have you there.
So one of the NLU team members talked to me recently and said, you and Kevin and you and Emilia in particular are a really big mirror for people. And I really appreciate what she was trying to say there, but I asked kind of why I asked about it. And she said the clarity piece, particularly with you and Kevin, you guys have so much clarity on exactly who you are, exactly where you're going, and exactly why you're doing it and how to get there. And I remember you and I at a Brenner Burchard event, there was like a clarity breakout session where you and I realized that we were rated, like I think it was 0 to 4 for some reason, or 0 to 5, I forget. But we were like very high on the clarity, and that was many years ago when honestly we were fairly lost in comparison. So why am I talking about clarity? I know a lot of our listeners have a hard time understanding, and this was very apparent in Group 8 of group coaching, are really unsure where they want to go. Maybe you know how to achieve goals, or maybe you want to achieve goals, but you're not sure of what goals to actually achieve. I wrote an article called Quantum Goal Setting. And the reason I actually give this to all of my clients, this is a homework assignment for my clients, because essentially what it does is it gets you to think about, okay, you know what, instead of thinking 30 years down the road, which not everyone can do, let's think about the next 3 months. Let's think about like 90-day goals and pick 3. Let's not go crazy here. Okay, let's not try to change the world in the next 90 days. That's not real. You can change the world in a lifetime, but not in 90 days. So 3 goals, 1 under health, 1 under wealth, 1 under love. And then quantum goal setting is going to align your character, your behaviors, your skills, everything with that. It's a really, really powerful article. It's part of the Next Level blog, which we're now doing every month. More info on that to come. But yeah, click the link in the show notes and check out Quantum Goal Setting. I promise you'll leave that article with more clarity than you went into it.
Next Level Nation, tomorrow for episode number 1128. You're not the only one who is afraid of your fear. That was a good episode. I enjoyed that very much. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. Also, just heads up, tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are doing our live podcast in our private Facebook group. Every single Monday, we do our live podcast. Tonight, we're talking about if you want to find your people, you have to be yourself. So if you want to join us, please feel free. You can ask questions. We'll answer them in the Q&A. As always, at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Please reach out.